Until recently, somewhat recently, it's been quite the taboo subject. Right now, somewhere in the country, men everywhere are doing this. They used to do it behind closed doors, minding their own business in the comfort of their own home. But now, there's entire bars dedicated to it. When I think about this seedy thing, this disgusting thing, I think about filthy sailors. Alone, out in the ocean, pressed together, sweaty, months away from seeing a woman. And then things start to get out of hand. I'm sure they just did it to pass the time at first, but then those frisky sailors, they started to like it. Soon they were doing it every day, sometimes twice a day. And whenever a fresh young supple cabin boy would join their ship, they'd wait till they were far enough out at sea to where he couldn't escape. They'd pull him in the middle, circle around him, and let it flow. Those filthy, filthy sailors. It's sea shanties this week on Nothing Good.
Well, thank you, Noah, for yet another wonderful and thoughtful and insightful intro. Gentlemen, we're back with another episode. This is Doc, joined by Mr. Brown, Mac, and Jeff to my right, my immediate right. How you guys doing this fine evening?
Yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum. That's how I'm doing.
Yeah? Yeah, you
Yeah.
filthy sailor.
I was waiting for a banana and a tailpipe, but we'll get to that later.
That's a little humana later.
That's a little further out to sea.
So what's new? What's going on?
Not much. We're just here. Season 2 a rolling. I'm getting good feedback. Everyone getting good feedback?
So far, so good.
To people that haven't listened, fuck you. What are you doing? Why are you listening to this and
what
not
are you
go
waiting
back? Jesus, come on.
I got a lot of really good feedback. You know, just the other week when I was on vacation, I'm sitting on the beach. I'm enjoying myself. I'm getting text messages from people listening going, hey, man, that last episode was amazing. That Noah, he's hilarious. That Mac, he's Mac. Jeff, he's Jeff. But I tell you what.
Only one out of three is hilarious.
No, in all seriousness, I did get some really good feedback while I was sitting on the beach. I was texting a couple of people who've been listening, and they've been saying that it's really fun, and they're enjoying it, just passing the time, you know, and I really appreciate that.
But we're glad they're enjoying it because we're enjoying the shit out of it.
That's what we do.
You know, there's been a lot of news in the headlines recently about a recent show that has come back to the air. A show that was one of the most popular of all time, Game of Thrones. 20 million people a week. Everybody talked about it. And then the final season came out, and it just laid the biggest turd over all of our faces. Like in Germany...
Not consensually.
No, because in Germany you pay extra for that, but not here. We did not.
Nope.
But House of the Dragon has come back, and the fans are starting to come back to it. But that's not what they're talking about at the water coolers. They're talking about Season 2 of Nothing Good.
There it is. Nice. I mean, yeah, one would hope. But let me be honest with you. It's a lot like having sex with my wife. I don't care if someone else is into it. I'm enjoying myself. So we're just going to wait. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I don't care what kind of funny, weird looks or if the neighbors get upset for as loud as I'm being. The job is going to get done. And that's what we promise you each and every week. And this week's not going to be any exception, gentlemen.
You know, Noah, your neighbors once reached out to me and they said, is he awkwardly moving furniture in the house because we're concerned that he might pull something? I'm like, no, that's just his O noise.
Yeah. I still pulled something, though.
Yeah, hey.
Hey-o. So, guys, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah. I'm gonna go right off the gate before we get even started talking about beer and stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and give Doc his flowers for a minute, and then I'm gonna lose my temper.
Good.
Okay.
Great.
First, this was Doc's idea, and to have this movie on there, and I was very excited. But I'm just gonna cut to the chase and save you TLDR for anyone who goes on Reddit. Get to the end of this. How dare you pick a movie that's actually fucking good? Like, then I gotta sit there and watch a good movie. I'm like, yup. What the fuck am I gonna talk about?
We can't shit talk it the whole time.
You realize that he's waiting for the rug to be pulled out from under his feet the entire time he's watching this movie, and then the credits hit, and he's like, "Fuck!"
I actually enjoyed that.
That was sort of
Damn
my
it.
idea, is to watch something I actually enjoyed.
Yeah, well, dear God, we're gonna put an end to that concept right here and now.
Listen, I mean, for the a lot of the movies we've talked about, I have enjoyed the movies.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're any good, but I still enjoy,
Yes.
aspects other than the occasional overtly 80s racism, which
Still there.
it was, but it was there for a reason. It wasn't there because it was just because they were just racist in the 80s. It was there to prove a point.
Yeah, for sure. And it still wasn't as overtly... It was intentionally racist.
Yes.
It still wasn't as overtly racist as things that thought they weren't being racist at all that we've covered on this podcast.
That's right.
Right.
So, yeah. And I wonder if, going into it, I wish I could have written a sentence about what I expected the movie to be like, because I didn't expect it to age as well as it did. But here we are now. But before we go further...
I don't need any of my notes anymore. Noah just talked about everything I was going to talk about in the movie.
All right, thanks for listening.
So thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great week.
Yeah, have a good one. Get the fuck out of here. I don't fucking need you, audience. I'll do this by myself. Get out of here. You're fired. No, come back.
Yeah, we
it's okay.
kinda need them.
No. Sometimes. It's good. It's good. I like when they watch. So, what are we drinking, gents? What do we got? Doc, you got a beer cozy.
I have no idea what this is because I'm not fighting the fucking ring lid on this thing to look at the can because it's just too much effort.
It says Hop Farm.
But while I was on,
It is right there.
yeah, but I don't know.
Brewing with friends.
But I don't know like beyond
I
that.
don't know what it is.
Yeah, so I'm not
That's
even going to
just
talk
what
about it,
it's
but it's really fucking good. While I was on vacation, we went to this cup store at Barefoot Landing in Myrtle Beach. And
Shout out to the friends of Myrtle Beach.
And a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Lindemann, said, "Hey man, I have one of these. You should check it out." And I looked at the box. I'm like, I could use this. So there's a little frozen disc at the bottom of this motherfucker. Keeps everything nice and cold.
Look at that.
It's insulated. Keeps everything nice and cold. I fucking love it. I've been using it ever since.
Can I describe it to our dear listeners?
Go for it.
So like when you're watching a baseball game, and the guy's on deck, and he's got the koozie over the bat to like make it a little bit weighted. So when he's swinging the bat, he's like building up his strength. So when he goes up to the plate, his bat speed's going to be faster.
Yeah.
It's a lot like that, but it looks like it's for your dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually really like that.
And it looks like a marble floor.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's honestly, it was like I don't know, $25-$30, and it's worth its weight. Honestly,
That's awesome.
Highly
It does look
recommended.
awesome. It does look good.
So
Yeah.
you're saying the one drawback is that it has basically suctioned the beer inside.
So because
you're not going to get it out.
The way this works is I have to because it's a lot of condensation up here, so I have to twist the stopper off to look at the can, and I'm not fighting that shit.
No.
But it's good. The beer's good.
You win this time, Gravity.
Next
You
time,
win.
before the next episode, I'll make sure to look at the can first and really memorize what it's
Just
called.
take a picture on your
Yeah.
phone. That way, 4 beers deep, you can actually remember.
I will say as a rotund human, gravity always wins.
Yeah.
There's not a time that it doesn't win. Sometimes it just wins harder than others.
That's science.
One of the things that it reminds me, I say to my patients a lot when we're working on walking or their balance and things like that, and I say, listen. I trust you, but I don't trust gravity because it'll let you down every single time.
That's a
Whoa.
that's a t-shirt.
That is.
Yeah. That's like if you had...
Gravity.
Fuck
Seriously,
you.
Since we've been here today, Jones has dropped at least 2 T-shirt ideas on us.
You know what? I also just want to throw, since we're saying fuck you to gravity, I also want to throw a very smart fuck you out to non-Newtonian liquids. Fuck
you for that.
You look wet, but the harder I hit you, the more solid you get. Fuck you.
What did you
look
say?
You look wet.
What did you just say? That's another T-shirt, I guess.
Well, there's T-shirt
different
number
type of
3.
T-shirt for a different
I'm
type of
just
person.
saying that back in
Just-
my own head.
You don't have to play it back in your own head. You recorded it.
It's there forever now.
I said, you look wet. One the harder I
So I can see the T-shirt now. It'll be in the Axel Foley mold.
Yeah.
God.
The gray T-shirt and the high school, I think is what it was. The words of the school that was on the shirt.
Yeah.
But we'll use the Beverly Hills Cop font and then that's going to be right there on the shirt.
We are not going to use the Beverly Hills Cop font, right?
Absolutely
right.
not.
No.
We
We're
would
gonna
never do
use-
that.
No.
Absolutely
We're going
not.
to use a completely different font.
Exactly.
Royalty-free.
You're such a funny guy, Dave.
Similar royalty-free font.
Let's just be real. If anyone who cared was listening to this show, they would have got us on something like 50 episodes ago. At this point, we're okay.
man.
So we haven't really had a conversation recently about the merch store and
We
everything.
haven't. It's still there.
It is absolutely still there. Have you guys thought what you would do if you were like walking down the street one day and somebody you did not know is walking in the other direction and they had a T-shirt that just said "Nothing good"?
And now, this is a hypothetical situation.
Of course.
Right? And are hypothetically, like, the laws still the same as they are in reality? It's just, just in this situation, are the same? Is sexual assault still a thing?
Yes.
It's on the table.
Okay. Then no, I don't know what I would do. I'd be happy. I'd be fine.
I would 100% pull them aside and say, hey, by the way, where'd you get that shirt? That's really... Was that a podcast?
Is that cool?
That's really cool.
You can't tip your nose too much. Like, hey, I like the shirt. And then you look, thanks. And then walk by.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like, that's me. I'm
No,
that guy.
I would say, yeah, is that a podcast? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. You like the show? That's nice. Nice.
That guy's gonna be like that guy or that girl's gonna
For you, I have a Sharpie in my pocket.
Hey, let me,
just in case. And then you're gonna have that moment where like you're walking away and that person's gonna be like, I know that voice. And they're gonna turn around. You're just gonna keep walking.
Yep.
Like, did I just was that Jeff
Dale?
Vandergrift?
No, it wouldn't. But I would, if I saw somebody wearing the shirt. Here's what I would do: I would let them walk past me, and I'd turn around and I'd follow them. And
I would stalk them.
and as they got into the subway, I would get 2 cars behind, and I would wait. And then as they got off the subway and hailed a taxi, I would hail one as well and say, inconspicuously, please follow that. And wait till they get up to their front door, and just as the keys reach into the door, I'd run up behind them and I'd go, and then they turn around, and because this is hypothetical, I'd be gone. I'm in the bushes masturbating, but that's a separate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hypothetically.
It's gonna be one of those
When
episodes.
you're on public transportation 2 cars back, you got to entertain yourself somehow.
yeah.
I
So
suppose.
Oh no, I've been working it up the whole time. You know, keep it at a 3/4.
Oddly specific.
You sure you haven't thought about this?
Now I have.
Yeah, that was very
absolutely
specific.
not. On the other hand, if you also have ordered a T-shirt from Nothing Goods merchandise store, you can tweet us your address for reasons. Why would you want to? I don't know. Fuck you.
So,
But
the real reason we're here is to talk about 1984. I was only 2. What were you? Maybe like 3? Yeah. You were.
not even born.
You
yet.
weren't even
I
alive
think-
yet, Noah.
Since you have when did this movie come out?
84, but I don't know.
All right, so
December 5th, 1980.
There you go.
December 5th. So I was in my mother's belly at that point. I had moved from my dad's balls into inside of my mother's uterus.
you know, I've also had a
Waiting
similar
for-
experience like that with your parents, but it wasn't in 1984.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
Keys in a fish bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know. My parents are weird. Fuck
So,
you. I don't
It's
judge
funny
them.
that the movie
Keys in
came out in
the fish
December. I wrote in my notes that it was like when I think of summer movies, people think about like Bad Boys or Independence Day.
Yeah, that is.
I
yeah.
absolutely think of Beverly Hills Cop, and I always have, which is why I chose it for the summertime because that's my summer movie.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned a lot of movies
It's
that
not. It's weird.
that were part of Mike Bay.
Yeah.
That's all.
I know.
All right, so
You just name dropping?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So
Casey's-
Beverly Hills Cop.
Casey's listening angrily,
He should be,
masturbating in a
because
corner.
This movie is better than every movie he's ever put together. To be fair,
Ah.
we all know that is so utterly true. It's ridiculous.
There's one movie that I would love to revisit one day so we can put that to the test. It's The Rock. Because The Rock is fucking absurd.
Yeah, absurdly
And,
not good.
But yeah, but I don't
Bad
know.
Boys is good.
I-
You think
Not
you
as
think-
good as Beverly Hills Cop. Are you fucking serious?
I
No.
have not
I
seen.
can tell.
I honestly had not
He's like,
seen
I was,
either of
but
those 2
don't you give
movies
me that look. No, I'm not
in a long
serious
time.
at all.
So I can't honestly tell you how good The Rock is. It's listen, if this podcast has proven
He
fucking
was undisputed
nothing.
champion at least once.
I mean, yeah, for sure. The
Oh,
people
wait.
champion. No. The film The Rock, the 1997
yeah.
action pick starring Sean
Sorry.
Connery and Nicolas Cage.
Would you guys fucking lose your mind if one day The Rock pulled off his mask and it was Nick Cage the entire time?
No, check out.
That would be amazing.
Oh
Oh my god.
Peace! I think Nick Cage. No, but honestly, this whole podcast is built around the idea that most of these films I remember being better than they were. Right? Except this one.
There are some exceptions.
There are some exceptions. So I would like to revisit that. But yes, and I don't know, we got off already on a tangent. That I would say that until I watch The Rock, I would give you that.
Wait a minute, hold the fuck on. Sorry for the swearing, but I
What do you mean sorry
awkwardly
for the
talked
swear?
about the beer that I can't tell
You
what I'm
did.
drinking, but neither you motherfuckers talked about your beer
you-
at all.
You just kept going, and I just didn't feel. Yeah, I just didn't feel the need to bring it
Pony
back.
up, MFers, go
Guys,
for it.
wait. We missed each other. It's not about the beers we drink or the horrible jokes we make. It's about the friendship we share along the way.
Doing it together.
That's right.
It's always, to me, been about doing it together. You know, by yourself, it's just. I mean, if you can see them and they can't see you, then by yourself is fine. But together is where it's at.
In the dolls section of Toys R Us with old Christmas wrapping paper,
Yeah,
together,
together. Eye contact being made the whole time.
Piggybacked by strangers.
Yeah.
together.
Call back to our last
Yes.
Yes. I enjoy that concept of that. But Mac and I are drinking the same thing. Mac, what are we drinking?
We are drinking a Southern Tier IPA,
Oldie but a goodie.
classic.
Basic but wonderful. Delicious.
I'm not a big IPA fan, but I do like this IPA. This one isn't like made with, shards of a rhinoceros horn and, 14-year-old bales of hay and, the
Specific.
and the tears of like Eminem watching his daughter date Machine Gun Kelly. Like, it's not that type of IPA. It's just a regular IPA.
Of all the dark jokes we make, that's pretty dark.
That's oddly specific. I'm drinking an IPA that's not that one. It's called Cloud Harvest. It's a double dry hopped hazy IPA from Rheingeist Brewing in Cincinnati, Ohio.
I enjoy hazies. They're juicy. They got like a nice zest to them.
So juicy.
And the unnamed beer, name it. Come up with your own name for it, having drank it right
He
now.
knows the name, he just doesn't know what kind of beer it is.
I mean, it's just brewing with friends.
That's what it's called.
I'm gonna give the beer a name.
Sure,
Go
Go
for it.
for it.
Ted.
we can go with that.
Jones is
That is delicious.
taking Ted into himself.
And it is so
Put
fucking
Ted right to his
cold, it's
lips.
fantastic.
nice. Ted is ice cold.
It is so cold.
There it is. Wonderful. And as long as it gives and you get satisfied by Ted, then really it's all what it's all about. Who cares?
Well, if
Fuck
it-
you if you're judging Jones
I'm
and Ted.
gonna-
They are happy together right now.
Clearly.
I might retract my joke for just a moment and change the name from the beer from Ted to Andre 3000 because it's ice cold.
Ice cold!
All right.
You guys do not disappoint.
There you go. So, now we got that out of the way.
Did we? Because we're in a mood tonight.
We are
I
definitely in a
can
mood
tell.
tonight.
we have to
There's an
tap
energy
this
tonight.
thing down and
There is-
stay focused
There's
on the
something
road
here.
here
There's
because
an energy tonight.
I'm gonna put my thoughts generally out because I feel like this is like an open and shut case, so to speak, right? Because I don't think, and we've watched a lot of for this show.
see
a lot
what
of
you did there.
what?
Open and shut case.
Ba-dum-bum. Anyhow, so
Because it's a cop movie.
yeah, see, so I've watched a number of movies for this show, and many of which I enjoyed on a certain level. Some I just like, oh, this is fucking garbage.
Yeah.
Some is not named because we just didn't put the episode out because the movie sucked so
Oh, you
bad.
can tell people what it is.
Oh, well, yeah, Top Gun.
So it's going to be like the mythical episode, Top
Yeah.
Gun, because it exists.
It is
No
there.
one's ever
It
gonna
doesn't
hear
get
The audio is there.
It will never go away, but never shall it see the light of... Only in the event of my death can Top Gun be released.
I'll keep that in mind. But I mean, look, a lot of good movies. The Ninja Turtles, your Children of Men, stuff that I really, really enjoyed on different levels and different parts of my life. But this is the first movie that I watched for the show where I'd say over 75% of the time I had almost a shit-eating grin on my face, like while watching it.
It's super enjoyable.
Because I, much like most of the movies we watch, I hadn't watched it quite some time. So I already knew, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. It'll be a good time. My wife sat and watched with me. And holy shit, It is such a fun movie.
It is.
And it's just, every scene's like a little skit, and I missed that. You know, like
That's the genius of Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, like everything just felt so raw.
Yeah.
But,
there it is. It's still one of my favorite stand-up specials of all time.
So we like to take the piss out of the 1980s films a lot in our podcast.
We do.
But let's go just throw a little bit of respect to 1984 here for a second.
Yeah.
Because let's just talk a little bit about what happened here in 1984. These are the top grossing movies, the top 10 grossing movies in 1984. Number 10, Splash.
Okay.
Okay. Number 9, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Okay. Number 8, I know a favorite to some of us here at the table, Romancing the Stone.
Ah.
Number 7 is Footloose. Number 6, Police Academy. Number 5, The Karate Kid. Number 4, Gremlins. Number 3, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Cool.
Number 2, Ghostbusters.
There you go.
And number 1, Beverly Hills Cop.
It's a hell of a year for movies.
That was the number one highest grossing film in 84.
That was...
Not just that. Beverly Hills Cop was for the first 25 years since its release, was the highest grossing comedy ever until The Hangover came out.
It was also the highest grossing R-rated movie for a long time as well. Till The Matrix Reloaded.
Because the movie's fucking phenomenal. Yeah. Like, it's so well... The pacing is damn near perfect.
Yeah, it's... The only complaints you could have about the film are little minor details about what you could tell is really kind of like a run-and-gun movie in the 80s. And it's little tiny things that, sure, it's not as polished, but that works well with it. I went looking for something to like, you know, how would I like to pick something like Nipple Chomping and ride that through the whole goddamn time we're talking about this.
It's been a while.
It has been. Chomping on those titties like silhouette,
was
like a fucking claw.
Was it titty chewing?
Yeah, there was some titty chewing going on in that movie. But the movie was too good. It was like I got the feeling that anything that wasn't necessary, there was nothing gratuitous in the film. There was nothing that wasn't necessary to the plot of the movie, and all of it was a good scene. And all of it was either like rare Eddie Murphy for like 10 seconds not being like funny, but every scene had heart and drama. Every scene and everything was important to the movie, and it was excellent. And I even dealt with Paul Reiser for the 6 minutes.
I wrote like big capital letters, Paul fucking Reiser.
Yeah, I forgot he was
Fuck.
Yeah.
He's not in it very long, thankfully.
Nope.
No, Paul Reiser played basically one role through the 80s.
Yeah.
And it was that guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said, too, about just having Eddie Murphy be Eddie Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because, again, one of the movies that I know we'll cover at some point when we're doing the podcast, one of my all-time top probably 3 movies is Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
But in Ghostbusters, you just have Bill Murray, script be damned. We're just going to do whatever the hell I feel like. Mm-hmm. Eddie Murphy was like this a lot in Beverly Hills Cop. You know, most of what happened in that whole movie was improvised.
Yeah, and a lot of his stand-up success and his sort of style at that time in his career, you could see it as evident how much it flowed into this movie. And most of it was improv. Most of his lines were all on the fly. There's a whole bunch of scenes on the cutting room floor of the rest of the cast just breaking.
I'm sure. I can only imagine.
There's a scene in the movie where they had to use that the cast is breaking.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about when I'm sure we get to that point talking about the film.
For sure.
Can we take a second to talk about Martin Brest?
Yeah.
The director of this fine film.
Yeah.
He made a few films
I have
after that.
Best director ever.
Brest director.
He lets it all hang out.
Oh boy.
It's clever.
Thank you.
So after the success of Beverly Hills Cop, he could basically do whatever he wanted. So he made 4 movies after this one. Midnight Run.
Oh,
Success.
what a great movie.
Scent of a Woman.
There you go. You can tell what generation we're from.
Meet Joe Black with Brad Pitt.
No shit.
Oh.
Success.
Yeah.
I love the look of that movie.
And then
And just
2003,
stop there.
Okay. No.
He's
No,
not
you're
going to
gonna do
stop.
it?
We can't stop there.
We can't?
No.
Are you sure?
So let's just end timeline. Beverly Hills Cop.
yes.
Then after that is
Midnight Run.
Midnight Run.
Midnight Run. Then Scent of a Woman.
Yes.
Hooah.
Then Meet Joe Black. And then
And then in 2003, he wrote and directed a tiny film you may have heard of called Jiggly with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez.
Geely. Yeah, whatever that is.
His wife.
Panned.
His current wife.
His current wife.
Panned for how terrible was it?
Critically acclaimed as one of possibly
The
the absolute worst movie ever made. And he went into a recluse shelter mode after that and never did anything again. The next time anyone saw him was 2 years ago when they were doing promo for whatever anniversary it was for Beverly Hills Cop.
That's
he came out
fascinating.
to a showing, but other than that, no one's ever heard of him since in the industry. Like, it completely ruined his career.
Directed the highest grossing comedy of all time that stood for 25 years, and Gigli was so bad that it ruined him.
Ruined his
Well,
life.
I mean, he clearly deserved it because he wrote the fucking thing.
Yeah.
With all
He
due
knew what he was
respect,
doing.
listen. It's not like somebody handed him a fucking script, and say, "Hey, just shoot this." That wasn't
He
his
chose to
brain. He chose this. He
Oh,
chose this path.
He almost put an attitude that they can't all be winners. He's like, you're right, they can't. Gigli.
if that was the tagline, I think the movie would have been received better.
Yeah, probably. Probably a little humility.
Yeah, considering, I mean, he could have done whatever he wanted, really. I mean, if you look at
And he
Beverly Hills
did.
Cop, yeah. Sorry, Martin. I don't know what that was. It sounded like a werewolf.
It might have been.
So the budget.
There he is. He's out there. That's what he does now.
He knew
Yeah,
somehow.
The budget for this movie was $13 million. It made $316 million.
God damn, that's a good.
And
That's
four-
good profit.
Cleared their
And
expenses.
$4 million of the budget was Eddie Murphy's paycheck.
It's excellent.
He cleaned
So
up.
That's a pretty good return.
How about Eddie Murphy?
How
Like
about
his
Eddie?
second movie that he was starring in at this point,
Yep.
because it was 48 Hours and then basically this, that he was just able to go $4 million. And they're like, and then in the 1980s, they're like, yeah, that seems right, yeah.
I mean,
Because
he was on top of the world. Yeah.
He was, I think it was, I don't know if it was for Beverly Hills Cop or if it was for 48 Hours. He was the only person to host Saturday Night Live while still a cast member during this time, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
He was the first one.
and also, as we mentioned, Ghostbusters, he was supposed to be Winston Zeddemore in Ghostbusters. He left Ghostbusters to make Beverly Hills Cop.
Can I?
Wise decision.
I feel, and this is, and to what you kind of sort of started to say, I've heard this before. I think that was such a good idea, and not for Eddie Murphy. He was going to be a star no matter what. But I think Ernie Hudson's straight man was so important.
For 100%.
Being like the guy
that
who's not a
contrast.
part of
Yeah,
this made things so much funnier in the scenes that mattered for him.
Yeah.
I think that Eddie, I mean, it would have been great with Eddie, obviously. But he wouldn't have been a good straight man. He wouldn't have been the straight man.
Well, that's the whole thing, is that they had to... That's the reason why Winston comes into the movie halfway through the movie. Because Winston was supposed to be there in the beginning with the guys as one of the college professors, fellowship guys. And they had to rework the whole movie when Eddie left.
Can you imagine that film?
Every day of my life, I did.
That's a heavy hitting movie, dude. That's a heavy hitting comedy movie. Those four.
Like, I couldn't even fathom it.
I tried to. And every time I do, I just get a nosebleed.
I was
and
going to say,
pass
is that
out.
why your hair is so long?
I just
Every time you think about it, your hair just gets a little longer.
yeah.
Well, Eddie Murphy was not originally cast for Axel Foley.
He was not.
First
No,
it
he
was
wasn't.
Mickey Rourke. And it was taking too long to get through production, and he had other offers, so he dropped out. Then it was Sylvester Stallone,
Boom.
who was signed on
Yep.
and reworked the entire movie to just be a straight action cop movie.
Of course he did.
Was not comfortable with the comedy at all.
Because he's not a funny guy.
Hey,
And so that changed. And they decided to sort of blur the lines between action and buddy cop and make it lean in on the funny. And that's where Eddie Murphy came in.
Wait, can we go back to Herb saying that, have you not seen Stop or My Mom Will Shoot?
I was just going to say, don't you fucking dare bring up that movie.
yeah. The anger in this man's eyes.
That is not a good film, and it's not a funny film. You know
not.
who's in that movie?
The Getty?
The Getty. And don't you invoke her name a third time.
No, because she will pop up behind
She
you.
will appear. I'm watching you, Jeff.
Yeah, we're not gonna. We're not messing with that.
I kind of wanted to, and I didn't write anything about this, but just thinking about it now, because I was so engrossed with the film, it didn't click. But man, Eddie Murphy, right in this little bubble, this vacuum of his career, was so fucking good. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he's still fucking funny. But you think about where he is now in his career, and it's such a fucking shame that he's not as applauded as he could and should be. Because he put out some fucking bangers
He did.
of films for a long time.
It's so interesting that you mentioned Geely earlier, because I think it goes without saying that late stage capitalism really started to show its head at the beginning of this century, because movie careers got eaten alive by bad choices in that same era. We had Geely, we had The Adventures of Pluto Nash, with Daddy Daycare, and like just a couple of string, enough of making mediocre to downright bad movies was enough to take Eddie Murphy, a once untouchable star,
Quite
and make
literally
him
untouchable.
quite touchable.
He's been touched all over
Especially
the
if you're
place.
Mel B. Quite touchable.
So I will. I don't know if you guys had this in your notes or not, but this was the first of 7 straight movies that Eddie Murphy starred in that debuted at number 1 at the box office.
He was money.
It was. I mean, it was. You could say this was like Will Smith in the '90s.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that he could touch that wasn't turning to gold, right? And you think about the movies that came after Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy. And I'm trying to get back to my notes on it here.
It's okay. No, I will say that my little thought here. Do you have it loaded? You good?
Go ahead. Give me a
Okay.
second here to get it pulled up.
What I like most about his role in this movie is that he's so reserved compared to his stand-up, compared to his work on SNL, and compared to the work he would do afterward. He doesn't really because when you think about leading funny men that would come after Eddie Murphy, they're all generally zany.
Mm-hmm.
But in this role, he was very chill. He's like, "Hey, Victor," and it's just like that kind of a thing. And
I love that shit.
And he's funny, like really subtly funny in this too.
I mean, there's some scenes where he's clearly zany.
Oh no, for
where
sure.
he's, impersonates.
But it's not like he's not Ace Venturing his way
No,
throughout
not
the whole movie.
But
Right,
I wrote the last thing I wrote about this movie was this movie is fantastic for one real reason, because it finds the pitch perfect balance, equal parts comedy, raunchiness, and seriousness.
Yeah.
It hits. When it's serious, it's serious. It feels serious. The tone just shifts.
It does.
And it's no longer haha anymore. But then the raunchiness is clearly there. Swearing like a sailor, titties all over the place. The jokes are over the top. They're crossing certain little lines here and there, clearly, for 1984. But then the comedy is just so fucking there.
It is.
Because he can be funny. Like he said, he can be so deadpan funny.
Yeah.
Well, you don't really see him deadpan funny in a stand-up. But in this movie, he's clearly deadpan funny so
Straight
many
deadpan funny.
times.
And he lets and he's serious enough to let Judge Reinhold be the nerd. Where it'd be easy to make Judge Reinhold be like the straight guy, right? And the whole thing. But he comes in, Taggart's the hard ass, and oh geez, Axel, like that very very like almost like dorky kind of a thing, and he lets him play it in that little pocket.
Yeah, I think the dynamic between those three really
great.
helps elevate it. I mean, the relationship and they're such different characters. And I mean, Axel Foley is the star, obviously, but it's also like, okay, us as the audience, like, okay, is that what all the cops are like in Detroit? Because then you start to associate that, and you're like, okay, yeah, these are these, sort of uptight Beverly Hills cops, and that's what they are. And then you have this rough and tough street guy. And how do those blend together? And I think, you said it best. The way they blended the raunchiness and the seriousness and the comedy together. I mean, it really plays the Eddie Murphy strengths across the board.
And to piggyback on what you're saying too, Jeff, there's a very genuineness to his performance in this.
Yeah.
There's not a moment, even when he's playing it funny, that it doesn't still feel serious. There's nothing about his performance that feels campy,
Nope.
that feels out of place for the character, that feels out of place of the tone of the film. It all carries through. And that was one of the things when I was watching this that I was most impressed by. And I shouldn't have been, because, I watch Coming to America, I think probably like once every 3 months.
I love that movie with all of my heart.
Everybody does.
Yes.
There's reasons for that.
It is so good.
But again, he has an ability as an actor that I don't think a lot of people give him enough credit for, because, talking about what we just had before when I had to look it up here, right? So, Beverly Hills Cop, number 1. Then the second number 1 movie that came out next, The Golden Child.
Terrible movie. Atrocious. We're going to do it one day.
It's not a great film.
No, but dear God, everyone's seen it because it's Eddie Murphy.
I want the knife.
Yeah.
Please. No. Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah.
Then Coming to America. Right? Harlem Nights.
There you go.
Richard Pryor.
Then another 48 Hours. And then Boomerang. Those
Let
were
me
the...
fucking tell you something, man.
Everybody can say
Fucking
something.
Boomerang was such a jam movie for me. It was so good.
Yeah.
It's still so damn good.
It is an excellent, one of the best soundtracks.
Fucking
I've
Eartha
ever
Kitt.
heard, dude. Oh my god.
Fucking get me started.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But then, let's see, that's an Eddie Murphy that we know. What a lot of our audience probably knows, and what you guys are talking about, how people don't give him the credit he deserves today,
What came after?
is because then we had Beverly Hills Cop 3.
That movie's not good.
No.
The Distinguished Gentleman was before that.
I fucking love that movie. It's a really smart movie.
That's a
It does
fun
not
movie.
Get the credit I have.
That's a very fun
Everyone's like,
movie.
what's what? Because you think about like all the President's Men and all of these things that take place in Washington. What's your favorite? I've always said The Distinguished Gentleman is my favorite Washington politics.
Yeah.
Anything, because it's got the right amount of slapsticky, funny, and deadpan and like dead seriousness stuff. You're like, okay, yeah, for real.
We hit Vampire in Brooklyn.
It's not
It's
a
not a
great
good
film,
movie.
but it's not a bad movie though.
It's not.
it's
It falls
something.
in. Every time that I ever
It's
watched
middling.
it, I enjoyed watching it,
Yeah.
knowing that even
Yeah,
as a small child, that it wasn't very good.
Right.
But then we moved into The Nutty Professor.
The first one was pretty damn funny.
Not
Yeah.
saying it wasn't.
No, this is the point in his career where he sort of dropped the raunchy part of his.
Yeah.
He starts
acting.
cleaning up a
He starts
little bit
cleaning
more
up.
as he goes.
You're
along.
right.
And there's
Yeah.
more kid-focused movies. Nutty Professor,
Mulan, where he was the voice of Mushu.
Mulan,
Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah.
Then Holy Man, which I don't think a lot of people really went to.
It was okay. It was with
I know I
Jeff-
saw it, but I don't-
Jeff
barely remember
Goldblum is the like QVC. He's the producer at QVC, and he gets Eddie Murphy to sell. You're gonna mention to me though, one of my all-time favorite comedy movies is coming up here.
The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
No,
No, Life.
Sorry.
Life is
Life.
such a good movie.
Life is next.
That's
Life
not what I was talking
No,
about.
you're going.
so
It's
good.
Bowfinger, isn't it?
Yep.
Fucking Bowfinger.
Keep it together. KIT. Keep
Yep.
it together. Keep it together. Oh, it's like, when Steve Martin fucking gum bands that dog's legs together, it's fucking. I go really hot or cold on Steve Martin, but that is like comedy genius. I stood up in the theater and I was like, that is fucking funny. Like that is that is fucking genius.
I bow at the altar of Steve Martin. I always have, and I always will. Just finished watching the first season of Only Murders in the Building.
I'm working through that too.
I love that man. But see, then here's the thing, right? Shrek happened. Eddie Murphy didn't need money anymore.
Nope.
No.
Once Shrek happened, that man.
Yeah.
That donkey money.
I don't even need to talk about any other movies that he made. We don't need to talk about Pluto Nash or anything that goes beyond that because Shrek happened. And you made
Four
so
more Shreks after that.
and he got paid more and more and more for every single one of those movies.
Yeah,
You don't need to
he
work
can
anymore.
Make all the decisions he wanted to. I do make a joke all the time because one of my favorite guilty pleasures, knowing that it's not good, is the song "Party All the Time" by Eddie Murphy. And my favorite joke to make about it, and I think this is one of the truest things I've ever come out of my mouth, is that at the time that Shrek came out, "Party All the Time" was the low point of Eddie Murphy's career. Here in 2022, "Party All the Time" is the middle point of Eddie Murphy's career. And it's like, it's interesting to see. Now, I love Dolomite Is My Name. Like, I loved it. If I could convince my wife to sit through it again, I would watch it every other night. It's like, I thought it was genius of a film.
He's great in Dreamgirls.
Oh, yeah.
But unfortunately, Norbert came out right afterwards.
Yep. Norbit. Yep.
Norbit cost him an Oscar.
So many of those things.
So
But let's take it back to Beverly Hills Cop. Do we want to go through the plot of the film?
I don't think we need to do that
No.
necessarily.
Let's
I think
talk about
he's a
some of the
cop.
characters.
It's Beverly Hills. Scene.
I
Paul
love.
Rudd is
I
in it.
really enjoy like you
Strippers,
know.
there's cocaine.
God, there's some titties.
I loved how in the 80s movies specifically when they're like, I think it's cocaine and they dip their finger in it.
I
on
love
their tongue.
that.
On their
I
tongue.
knew
You
it
don't
was
get
coming.
that
Like, do
or they do it on a knife, right?
Yeah.
do cops actually fucking do that?
No.
I just
I
thought
feel like they can't do
I thought
that.
they like brushed their teeth
They're
with
like,
it a
let me
little
just
bit.
see if it's any good.
There's some movie I can't. Right now I can't remember what it is, and maybe our midnight listener can Google it for me because I'll forget.
Yeah, please do.
Because we're drinking a beer. There was a movie where Robert De Niro plays a cop, and they're doing like a TV.
Wait. Robert De Niro plays a cop?
Bear with me. Yeah,
Wait,
he's either a cop
that's
or
a
criminal.
stretch.
Yeah, I know, right? It's half of all those movies. Let's whittle it down. And he's been asked to be the assistant. Oh, it is an Eddie Murphy movie. It's Showtime. It's the movie Eddie Murphy and Robert De Niro on Showtime. So my brain had a second.
Nice.
But there's a scene where Eddie Murphy is trying to learn to play a TV cop, and he tests the cocaine out. He's like, we don't do that, right? Because it could be cyanide. And so, like, that's the first time I'd ever heard it called out in a movie, ironically in an Eddie Murphy movie. But yeah, no, I don't think they actually do that. If they do, of course, then again, too, I'm going back based on what I think of police and how they handle the thing. Oh, they're definitely testing out that cocaine. Let's just do it on the hood of this car while this guy watches.
Are you acting like in the 80s they even bothered to think it was anything but cocaine?
I want to check.
On set,
This-
it was real cocaine.
I want to make
was the
sure.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
that
had the
wasn't,
budget.
that,
What do you
was,
think the other $9 million went to?
that wasn't even a prop. That was real cocaine.
That's Eddie Murphy had it in his Volvo. It's like, hold on, I got
Guys
this.
were fake. Cocaine was real.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Testing out the cocaine. Great. One of my favorite cliches of movies of that era. I thought you were going to talk about how 80s titties, no matter what movie we're in, see, right now, if you go on the internet, you were to watch a movie, you were to watch HBO, and you're like something made in the last 5-10 years, and you're like, there's titties in this, you wouldn't be able to predict what those titties look like. They could be big old titties, they could be petite titties, they could be average sized titties, but if I
80s,
said
they all look-
80s movie titties, they're all the same. You have, right now, the person listening pictures all the 80s titties that are in every movie.
And you're
they're
right.
in this one, too. They look
You're
exactly
absolutely
like it.
right.
Someone's like, get the titties. Like, that was the name of the titties. They just filed in.
Could you imagine, like, that was your Hollywood company? It's like, like, I just recently saw the movie Nope.
Yeah.
And that's focused around a family of horse trainers that provide horses for movies. Could you imagine if you're just the titty trainer in the 80s? And, like, you got the phone call, listen, we're doing Beverly Hills Cop, and we need some say no more. Wait, who's in it? Eddie Murphy. I got just the titties.
That's right.
And
Go through your Rolodex of tits.
You just go to the stable. They're all just sitting in stalls, right? And like they just show up with the trailer, pulls the door of the trailer down, the titties come out, and his job on set is just to make sure the titties are wrangled.
Titty spreads them down. These tits need their mandatory union mandatory.
There's a couple really cool to get away from the titties for a moment. But we'll be right back, I'm sure.
We will.
They're out now.
The couple things that I really appreciated about this film that, like, because, okay, so I'm sitting there watching it with my wife. Oh, also, this episode's a really important episode for one very specific reason. Because I'm unveiling a new rating system.
Oh,
shit.
Yeah.
Does it, wait.
It's not nearly as cool as it sounds.
Unannounced
Does
gimmick.
it-
I love it.
Does it involve titties?
No.
Oh.
On a scale of Eddie Murphy's.
No, nothing like that. So my wife watches all the movies with me, usually, and so typically she's never seen them, but on occasion something that she'd seen before, So she'd seen this movie before, but like a lot of probably people our age, honestly, you probably saw it on TV a bunch of times, on the cable version. There's some scenes that you're like, oh fuck, I forgot that even happened. Like, dude got fucking shot. Like,
Yep.
oh fuck, I forgot that even happened because I'd seen it on Fox so
USA
many
Network,
times,
yeah.
But anyhow, so I always ask her what she thinks, and she gives me her opinion, and I usually don't bring many details, and I still won't. But I've come up with the Alley rating scale. It's a star system out of 5. That's the Alley rating scale, or as I like to call it, ARS. And
I love you.
she gave it 4 out of 5 stars. She's not happy that I've named it ARS.
I was hoping it was 4 out of 5 arses.
But no, no.
I love it. I love everything about it.
In every movie, I'm going to get an ARS scale rating.
You're getting a real gauge of the arse.
Yeah, gauge of the
Love
ARS.
it.
And she want me to tell you guys, I had nothing to do with this. This is all Herb's idea. And I said, I'll tell them. That's fine. It's still the ARS system.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
But
I love a good acronym.
yeah.
A good dirty
So,
acronym.
so the next time that we see Allie, do we just go up to her and say, "Hey, Allie, nice arse"?
No, you don't.
Doc's like, playtime's over, motherfucker.
You do not do
Doc
that.
took off his glasses, but his glasses are still on his head.
That's right. No, so there's really cool moments in this movie. There are a lot of really very specific tropes that I expected, but it was even funnier when it happened. Like the fucking frazzled, kind of graying, like fucking supervisor cop, his boss,
Yep.
just fucking pissed, sweaty, and graying.
The most things I wrote notes on in the entire movie are about how I love. This might be my favorite cliche angry captain ever.
I love
Yeah.
he absolutely says, "You're a good cop, Foley, but you're reckless, motherfucker." Seriously, please don't do this to me.
Listen.
This is too good.
You know, you talk about like classic tropes, right? That have and movies like Beverly Hills Cop, like produce those
They
tropes for us. They created them, right?
I love it.
So this was the note that I had just right before yours with the frustrated police captain who just can't wrangle in his
He just
newfound
can't do it.
detective, right? It was the opening chase scene. after he's in the back of the...
Heat is on.
God, that's
the sound-
the music. We're gonna get to that.
We're going to get to that.
We're
Oh,
getting
yeah.
to that.
But it's the opening chase scene where he's in the truck and then they're just driving around Detroit and they're just randomly running into things.
So many
Things
people
that
got
have
injured.
no reason of being there. Like a truck of like fruit.
I was like, the bananas went
The
flying.
bananas went flying.
Random bananas in the suburb of Detroit. Yeah.
Just the people that are pulling their cooler out. Why do they have where are they going? They're not going to like Lake Michigan or anything like that.
Maybe
Like,
they are.
There's no beaches in Detroit. If it is, it's full of heroin needles.
Jesus
You're not
Christ.
going there. Yeah, I said that, Detroit, but you've cleaned yourself up, so it's okay. But I wrote this because when I watched it, I had to go back and watch it again because I immediately thought of that scene in Wayne's World 2. When they're just walking through the street, and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" He's like, "Well, my job is just to carry this sheet of glass back and forth across the street. And me, I'm stacking this crate full of chickens. And me, I'm going ahead and just stacking up these watermelons." And he's like, "Okay." And then,
Yep.
75 minutes later in the movie, the car chase happens. They go through the pane of glass. They go through the chickens. They go through the watermelon. The car crashes. And he's like, yeah. And the dude's like, "Gentlemen, our work here is done." And that's all I was thinking about is like, that's what it reminded me of because that's what grew that.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many chase sequences had to have that because you didn't have Michael Bay with sunset car chases and low camera angles going across the bottom of the car.
Yeah, it was
But-
much like Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
But this is still a Jerry Bruckheimer movie.
It is. That's the other reason I was going to mention
there was
that.
still a gratuitous car chase in it, no matter what. Just what hadn't been Mike Bayed up yet.
It hadn't been.
I'm glad that you guys have adopted this because it's true.
I like it because even though you won't admit it, it is so disrespectful.
How
And
is it
that motherfucker is-
disrespectful?
Just the way you said it.
Like what? I say Mike Bay.
I'm gonna tell perfect strangers that when they cut me off in traffic, I'm like Mike Bay, the way you said it, and they're gonna know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna understand. Yeah, I took way more notes in the first half of the movie because I was just trying to be more observant, but I got roped in because it's a good fucking movie.
Yeah.
and watched. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing is, they literally must have wrecked every car in Detroit during that opening sequence, and I realized, jokes on them, it's Detroit in the 80s.
They make
Cars
cars
just
there.
came that way.
Yeah. That's where cars are made.
Yeah.
And that's all it was.
They don't naturally come all fucked up like that.
Can
too.
we go ahead and mention the city of Detroit police cars for just a second? That they had like just a stick-on like sticker sign on the side of the door that just said Detroit Police Department, and the siren was fucking R2D2 with a spitting red lamp on top of it, and it just looked painful to me.
Yeah, it
it
was-
just looked uncomfortable.
Well, I think even the stark contrast to how nice when Eddie Murphy says these are the nicest cop cars I've ever been in the back of.
So
It's like it just sets it like the whole movie has successfully a completely different vibe once you get to Beverly Hills. It's jarring in its own way in that it's nicer.
Yeah, I love the
cleaner.
culture shock it goes
Yeah.
through. It's like
Excellent.
a full-on fish out of water scenario, and you don't think about it necessarily that way, but it really is. And you're starting because in the beginning of the movie, it's just you're the observer looking in, watching all this happen. And as soon as he goes to Beverly Hills, now you're looking at it from his perspective.
He's the outsider.
It shifts totally. Now you're seeing what he's seeing. He's just like, wow, this is fucking amazing. And honestly, I mean, they went out of their way, obviously, to make like the stark contrast, but they did such a good job. I mean, they go in the police department in Beverly Hills. It's like a fucking command center.
It looks like War Games.
Yeah.
It looks like the movie War Games and Matthew Broderick.
I had it look like the command center in the first Death Star when Han and Luke
Yeah.
broke in as stormtroopers. Like they thought that's what the command center of the future was going to look like. That's what Beverly
Oh, yeah.
Hills Cop just took right
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
They might even recycle the set. I don't even know.
They very well might have.
I mean, Ronnie Cox has probably just brought it with him. He was in RoboCop as well. So just drag it over. So anyway, let's talk about some of the characters that are in this movie. Like some of the fun things. I'll go right off and say that I did not remember that the actor who played Michael Tandino was as good as he was. Like, he comes off scummy, but immediately likable. So you feel bad when they kill him in what must only be known as the most brutal, or the least brutal death I've ever seen in a movie.
It was quick. It was swift.
It was an execution, and I was expecting way more of a splatter on that than I did.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing, but it was still, they didn't cut away from it.
They didn't.
hung on that. So it was still brutal, but
He got shot twice in the head from the behind.
Yeah, razor
And-
blade vaginas, it is not.
No. Dusty Rhodes took more blood from that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Dusty Rhodes
he
saw
just
that.
played it in the theater.
That's what I was just going to say.
That's what I'm going to do, baby.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Dusty Rhodes was watching this in the theater, saw that happen, and went, shit.
Yeah, you ain't going to sell that. He ain't selling that very good at all. I'm going to play it here real fast.
I
Get in my
blame
popcorn.
you because you brought him up. You've brought him up. So this is a super sidebar, but goddamn, it happens.
That's what we do.
So for those of you who do not know, I was on vacation a week or so ago. I was in Myrtle Beach for a week, and it was a wonderful recharge time. But I discovered something about myself while in Myrtle Beach, and I feel like I've been fighting it my entire life, and that is when it's time to grill, and we're like really grilling, and you're like really working on ribs and steaks and stuff. Dusty Rhodes comes out.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine and our mutual friend, we're sitting over some steaks and we're doing ribs, and I'm just like, yeah, baby, you gotta slather the salt on them baby back ribs, if you will, and you gotta make sure you get the corn on the cob and the foil. You gotta make sure you wrap them up real tight. You don't want to get them burning, baby. You know what I'm saying here?
Jeff, we've been tailgating wrong.
And I'm sitting there, and Chris does not watch wrestling.
No.
Never done that.
No,
He has
we
no
haven't.
fucking clue what I'm doing. He's just looking at me.
He's thinking, does he need to call an ambulance?
Like, are you heat stroke? Like, what? And I'm like, you gotta make sure you flip them burgers, baby. They gotta be medium well done. We gonna plan today. And I'm just like fucking going off, and I'm like, this is the most amazing experience to be Dusty Rhodes while grilling.
Yeah.
And I'm never going back.
You just gotta understand that these burgers are like the Ric Flair of all beef patties, baby.
You are not a real wrestling fan if you do not have a Dusty impersonation. You have to, on some level, even if you never actually audibly used it, it's in your head.
Oh, it is.
My wife now will be able to tell when it's coming. She'll go, if you will.
I love it.
She's never watched a Dusty Rhodes match or promo, but she knows if you will.
If you
Because
will.
I say it. You ever I don't know if you guys are as babbly as I am, but you ever just catch yourself come to in the middle of you saying something? Just like, oh, I tuned back in. Now, on this channel, I've been talking in the kitchen to myself, and I realized that I'm in the middle of a you will, and to the point where I must say it once a week. I love Dustyism. It's the best of
I will drink for Dusty fucking Rhodes.
Right. Absolutely, Dusty
because
Rhodes. To the American
dream.
dream.
Yes, if you will.
Yeah, what you're describing, though, is basically how I live my life in the kitchen. Stephanie will just come down and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm cooking.
Hands
Let
are
it go.
Brains on
Things are
autopilot,
going.
and then the mouth is like, oh, I guess no one's running the shop. We'll take it from here, boys. Yep, as the listeners of our podcast will attest to. But anyway, Michael Tandino. So I don't watch Breaking Bad.
I was going to mention that. So
And Better Call Saul.
Zach, the hitman who killed Mikey. I was like, why does his face look so familiar?
His face is so punchable.
Because it's Mike the Hitman from
From
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yeah. No.
He's just older and balder. And
Yeah,
has
very
a beard.
old.
But still looks in that very almost
I was
like if someone's like, I want to take James Caan from that era, but I want to hit him in the face with a wrench a couple of times. It's that guy.
But see,
But still menacing, like James Caan would be if he had just got hit in the face with a wrench.
Jonathan Banks.
See, I to piggyback off that a little bit, seeing him in this movie, you're like, oh, where do I know him from? Why does he look familiar? He looks like a fucking... I don't even know how to describe how he looks. Like, he does not look like a person who belongs in a movie, right? But, as time went on, he grew into that face.
Yeah.
And Breaking Bad is when that paid off.
He looks like a star.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It just took... it looks like the 80s were real rough on him. It's like he didn't know if he should be bald. He didn't know if he should have hair.
Yes, that weird
His nose did not fit his hair. His nose didn't fit his face at all.
The 80s were the end of the era where you could be fucking completely ugly and still have a very well-paying career with your close-up on your face all the time. Right? Like,
Let's ask Bill Murray.
What?
Huh?
Bill Murray?
Yeah, just ask Bill Murray.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my god, yeah. Bill Murray's got a crater face kind of a thing.
God damn, he's an unattractive human being, but he's hilarious.
Well, the 70s and 80s, SNL were rough on people.
They were. They had to.
sure, dude.
But he made it. A lot of the other ones didn't.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
But somewhere Dan Aykroyd is still being Dan Aykroyd, and everyone will let him go because he got out. He got out early enough. But what I want to say, it comes back to the dude from Breaking Bad, and I wanted to give this point earlier before we started talking about this, is that with the movie being funny and serious and having enough heart, is that I think you got to give credits to, you do feel, because of the casting of the villains, Maitland and this guy, that you do feel that they're in danger. That there's actual danger. That when
Yeah,
Foley
they're
walks,
threatening.
when he walks in, and any time that those two are there, until the point where Foley turns the buffet on the dude, you feel like this guy, because the only time I've seen these guys start doing some serious shit, you feel like his friend is in danger. You feel like it's like, oh, and that's a menacing. Without, other than the opening scene, you don't see them do anything menacing until Act 3 in the movie again. But that danger carries on. I think it just goes to testament to good pacing.
Agreed.
Yeah. In fact, as you mentioned it too, there isn't necessarily a lot of danger in this movie. For an action movie, it is relatively low action.
It is.
You got a car chase. Eddie Murphy gets randomly thrown through a fucking window.
So extra.
Which I love that.
So intense, so dramatic
Like,
and necessary.
I'm watching.
window.
Yeah, that's great.
So, so in the episode that we will not talk about, we did talk about in that episode, the Lost episode of Top Gun. We talked in that movie about how we have memories of that film. And when watching it back, a lot of us realized that maybe we didn't really actually ever watch the movie from start to finish.
Yeah.
We just, in our life, thought we did.
You
Yeah.
just did a way better job than we did on that Top Gun episode.
Yeah.
Well, you could just cut that out and like post it as a 15-second episode and just title it Top Gun. Put your intro in, put that in there as a description for Top Gun, and then put the outro, and that's it.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. But I feel like it was that way with Beverly Hills Cop. I don't think that I've ever watched the movie from start to finish all the way through. Definitely didn't see it on like premium cable, so there's a lot of the good stuff that I didn't really get a chance to see. But I did not remember, because as I'm watching them carrying him out of the fucking building, and I see the door, I'm like, oh, he did not go through the door. I'm waiting and expecting just the door to open and him to be like fucking DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince from Uncle Phil tossed out the door.
Yep.
But no,
Like
they threw him
like the cat from Flintstone.
They threw him
Which is a
right.
great gag.
They threw him right through a perfectly good window. Like they had
The window didn't deserve
that window did deserve it.
But it was minding its own business.
Somebody who's an administrative assistant for that guy just went, well, I got to clear my afternoon. Because now all of a sudden you got to clean the lobby. You got to find a company that's going to come out with a window that big. That shit's custom. They don't just have that lying around. That was completely unnecessary. And not to mention, that costs a lot of money to fix a window that big.
True.
All this is going through in my mind as I watch Eddie Murphy get thrown through the window, and he's laying there like, why the fuck did he throw it? And they said that you tossed yourself through that window, and there's 6 witnesses who would testify that.
I love it.
I'm like, that is so
His
fucking
exasperation's fantastic
Oh,
of
it's
it.
very
Like, I got through the fucking glass window. Who does that?
Nobody would acknowledge. Well, that was the whole thing.
For what? For getting thrown through a fucking window?
So good.
Through a fucking
Like, it
window.
doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't.
That's the best. It's
That's
like it's
so
just happening
good.
to him, and now he's got to deal with it.
Like that-
and there's a little bit of like racial concept there, right? But they don't ever let it.
It's not a little bit.
No, but I mean, but it's also it's not like it's like oh okay there, but they move along with the plot because you're still concerned about Victor Maitland and all that stuff, and it's just how good the movie is. Here's a little serious, here's a little funny, here's a little serious, touch of suspense, here's some funny, then today.
Well, it's great because like Eddie Murphy was all of us in that scene as we're watching it. Like, what the? It was he was thrown through a perfectly good window.
Perfectly fine window.
It was so fucking
It was
perfect.
excellent. Now I want to use that as a segue to talk about a character and then get really mad at myself for something, and I want to do it on air and for everybody else. So the main villain of this movie is a man by the name of Victor Maitland.
Great villain name.
Great name.
It is a great name.
And a very quintessential 80s thing. And I'm sitting there watching it, and it's one of the last notes I ever took. And the reason why I stopped taking notes is because I got so mad at myself for not being able to think of more jokes for what I'm about to say that I got up and walked around the house, and I just drew a blank. And I very rarely get stumped in this way. But I realized that Victor Maitland looks like a Nazi Phil Collins.
So fun fact. I didn't write it down, but I swear to God, I'm so glad you said that because up until probably like 1998,
You thought it was?
I thought that was Phil fucking Collins. I swear to God, I thought that was it.
That's
I
me and
convinced myself that was Phil Collins until I realized it wasn't. I felt like an asshole.
No, and that makes because as a kid I thought, I just thought all gentlemen who look that way were Phil Collins.
Oh, that's
Why
Phil
wouldn't you
Collins.
think that way? No, but I was so bad at myself that all I could do was think of one Nazi Phil Collins joke.
Jesus.
That I could stop taking notes. Actually, the last thing is titties. is the last thing of notes after that.
I can see it on your phone. Yeah,
Titties, right there.
Does say it
Titties,
is there, yeah.
titties. And that is my Victor Maitland is just a Nazi Phil Collins. And then I thought to myself that I would just start going into Phil Collins Nazi jokes, and the only one I could think of was "You'll be in mine heart." That's it. That's all I got. It is really difficult to come up with fucking nil. And Marielle's like, "Why are you so mad right now?" I'm like, I couldn't come up with a Phil Collins Nazi joke. I stopped.
I came up with it no less than 12 Dan Severin jokes. Danny Severin, thank you. And you only came up with one Phil Collins Nazi joke?
Yeah, it's harder than you look, because I'm trying, to go for quality, not quantity here.
Noah,
But
I think I speak for the rest of us. We're not mad. We're just disappointed.
I thought even now in this moment my brain would just go, and I'd be like, I just be able to fire them off. And as I'm sitting here and we're talking about, and my plate glass window, and it is a really good point. I'm like, I got nothing. We're at the Nazi joke time, and I got nothing. 2 weeks and I got no Phil Collins Nazi jokes. What has my life been? I'm going to go back to a Catholic church. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I can't come up with more than one Phil Collins Nazi joke. Help me. There was nothing. There was nothing about in the air. There was one other one, but it was too bad.
I feel like in the air tonight is not a direction you want to go.
No, there's a whole lot of Nazi jokes that are not a direction. So there was like it might have fair, real narrow street I could walk down with that.
That's impressive that you were able to censor yourself.
Oh yeah, there's
typically
there's a
line.
maybe
you do.
I do.
And just go for it.
Oh, not about 1939 to 1945. You gotta be real careful. But I'm not our audience. Audience, why don't you go ahead and post your greatest Phil Collins Nazi joke online and tag nothing good in it. We'd love to hear them.
Tag nothing good.
You don't have to adhere to that.
I don't know that you want to do that. We might be attracting a different crowd for the show at that point.
Yeah.
Because there's some people on the internet who are like, wait, I'm allowed to tell a Nazi joke? And they're really going to get into it.
As long as they watch and listen to the show. How about this? Buy a t-shirt, send us a screenshot of your receipt and your address, and then you can post a Nazi joke and we won't delete it. But it has to be a Phil Collins Nazi joke. That's how you drum up sales. That's just basic shit. I'm sorry. Marketing.
It's marketing 101.
It's not like one of us works in marketing or anything.
Yeah.
Why don't you,
Allegedly.
Typically, we steer clear of Nazis.
Yes.
I will
Just
give...
a general rule of thumb.
General rule of thumb in marketing. And as always, remember, turn in your GPS reports. Make sure, let's see the 30-day turnaround on this. And no Nazi jokes, guys. You remember what happened to Reebok?
Yeah, don't do that.
So, on his IMDb page, typically when an actor has passed away, they use like an older photo of the actor like in their prime in like one of their better movies. Yeah. And I go to Steven Berkoff's page. I'm like, oh, well, there's a picture of him from like Beverly Hills Cop when he looks like fucking Cocteau from Demolition Man, like right in the beginning. Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, when did he die? He's not dead. He's alive and well. He's still making a lot of fucking movies. He's very busy.
How old is he?
He was born in 1937. So we're talking 89 right now.
He's up
right?
there.
And as I go through like his filmography, I'm like, well, there's got to be some Nazi stuff in here somewhere. No. They're not so far.
It'd be too on the nose.
He's a Bond. He was Orlov in Bond.
Yeah.
He was in A Clockwork Orange.
Oh.
God, I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Oof. That's a list of probably not going to
never going to cover that shit.
No.
Yeah, I mean, there's he's got a huge filmography here with some of the stuff he's done. Children of Dune.
Not boring ass Kyle MacLachlan 80s Dune. The sequels to boring ass Kyle MacLachlan 80s Dune.
Legionnaire with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh.
I'm in a real sidebar mood here.
Oh, get it.
So, have all of you guys seen A Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
Yes, not for a very long time.
No,
it has been a really long time since.
Do you remember the first time you saw it?
Mm-hmm.
Where were you? What were you doing? Because I can tell you exactly where the fuck I was.
I was in college.
I was not in college, Jeff. Fuck. I was in elementary school.
Oh.
I had the luxury of having cable in my room by this point. It's like, like 6th grade, somewhere in there. It was on fucking Encore.
Oh.
And look, I should have never seen that shit. And I didn't understand half of what I was really watching, but that fucking movie's wild.
Yeah.
That movie's something.
I think it's 16, 17 when I saw it, and I knew enough about the quality of cinema to know that I can see why this movie is regarded as well. Because the video store, an incredibly strange video that we rented it for, had the poster on the wall, and I'd seen enough references. But I know that I will likely never watch that movie again until my children are old enough to ask me, what's Clockwork Orange? It's like, there's certain other movies, I'm not saying it's as good as Schindler's List, but like Schindler's List is another one. Like, I know that's a great movie, and you can only watch that a handful of times.
You can really only watch that shit once.
Like once, and so when my kids ask me about that movie, then I'll put it on, and I'll do it for a few other movies. But I'm not going to enjoy Clockwork Orange because I remember that movie.
Yep.
Noah's list for that film that like you can only really absorb a handful of times, and he'll only watch it if his kids bring it up, is Schindler's List, Clockwork Orange, then Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
I will. If my daughter says, "Daddy, can we watch Transformers?" and I'm like, "Oh, you mean the classic one? You got the touch." And
It
I'm
also
like,
came
"No."
out in 1984.
Yeah, and it's incredible film. And she's like, "No, the one that's later." And I realized that she's talking about 2007 Transformers. I'd be like, "You get the fuck out of my house right now. You're going to live with your mother."
You insinuated. That ain't right.
Which will be news to my wife at that moment. Get your child out of my house.
Okay, sorry about the sidebar, but
It's-
you brought it
that
up,
was-
and I'm just like, I had a flashback of a couple
just
scenes.
worth it.
Episode 75, guys. We're going to do it anyway.
Episode 322, way down the line.
Well, after we get through the next Halloween Havoc, it might be episode 322.
I'm
let's-
saying,
well, let's-
Halloween Havoc still.
Well, let's talk about the baby faces of this movie, too, as we start steering ourselves towards the music and the wrap-up.
Yeah, well, I mean, just touching on the cast in general. So we talked about Nazi Phil Collins. We talked about Judge Reinhold and Taggart and Axel Foley.
Yeah.
There were also some very brief cameos.
A great cameo.
Damon Wayans.
I love it.
Yeah.
credited
Love it.
As
Take those
Banana.
Banana Man.
Yeah.
Take
A
that.
very young Damon Wayans.
His very first acting role. That's his
it's
first
so
film.
Good. It's hilarious.
Damon Wayans
Paul
had it
Reiser.
then.
Paul Reiser we saw for a hot second into Detroit.
Thank God.
Stop saying his
You know-
name.
Paul Reiser.
Oh God.
Wait.
He's in Stranger
Look,
Things.
we've
He's-
invoked Paul
he's-
Reiser, Judge Reinhold, the Getty in
He's
one
got
fucking
Stranger
day.
Things money now.
That's not good.
We are not safe to go home. Paul Reiser's range from in the 1980s into Mad About You is exactly 0. He is the exact same person in Beverly Hills Cop as he is in Aliens,
Yeah.
as he is in Stranger Things, as he is in Mad About You.
Never changed.
He has he just plays himself. Like that's it.
I know a few actors like that.
But he was one of the. I admittedly watched very much Curb Your Enthusiasm, but I saw when he was on Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he just Paul Reisered all over the scene. And when you're Larry David, and you basically invented Paul Reiser before Paul Reiser, and you still out Paul Reiser Larry David, which is a weird sentence to say out loud and still makes sense, then you know you're maybe too much Paul Reiser.
Is there ever too much Paul Reiser?
No, there certainly is. There certainly is. I would venture Helen Hunt has probably had too much.
I was like, unless
Paul
you're
Reiser.
Helen Hunt,
Yeah.
There's a reason she doesn't do any more work.
she's been Paul Reiser.
She's been Paul Reiser.
Yeah. She's like, I'm good. I'm good.
She did the Tornado movie, and that was enough.
Yeah. As good as it gets. As good as it gets is a good film.
That is
That's true. Yeah.
Well, we have that, and also
And then we have Bronson.
Bronson Pinchot. Big fan of the '80s Perfect Strangers TV show
He got the role in Perfect Strangers
because
of this.
he actually. I've been waiting
pretty
to
cool.
talk about this the entire time. Recently, here in Pittsburgh, we had a comic convention. He was there, and they had a Q&A that we got to be up front for. And one of the first questions was, "Did you get the role of Beverly Hills Cop because of Perfect Strangers?" And he corrected the person wrong, telling them that the timeline, the Beverly Hills Cop came out in '84. Perfect Strangers didn't start till '86. And then a bunch of questions in the middle of a different Q&A panel come out about Beverly Hills Cop. So he described filming it as working with Eddie Murphy when the cameras were rolling was one of the best times he ever had, because it was his job to make Eddie Murphy laugh and to break character. And he's upset that he never did it. He never broke Eddie Murphy the entire time. When the camera stopped rolling, everyone else would laugh, But Eddie Murphy, according to Bronson, was a completely different person when they called cut. You weren't allowed to look at it. Like, no one else, not even the girl who played his old friend. Like, no one. Eddie Murphy would just walk away. No one was allowed to look or talk to Eddie. But when they set everybody up and the scene began, Eddie was a different person, and he was the likable Eddie Murphy. Wow. He said it was the easiest 2 days of shooting he's ever had. And he just wished that he could have known how much money the movie was going to make. Hello. So he could have asked for more money.
You know, it's got to be tough if you're Eddie Murphy that people expect you to be Eddie Murphy at all times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know...
Eddie Murphy, the character, versus Eddie, the person.
Right.
People don't disassociate or differentiate that they're
right.
two different things.
So, you know, I could see why he would be different when he's, you know, not on camera. Because it's got to be hard to be that kind of person at all at any given point in time. And I got to say, for Jenny Summers, you know, the friend, I'm happy that she wasn't the love interest. Like, I'm happy that it didn't need, this movie didn't need a love interest.
Nope. I mean, he was flirting a little bit. They had a thing before.
There was some. He
100% said you filled out, and I'm just like, you don't just say that to a friend of yours that you ain't tag.
Yeah, you ain't seen it in a long ass time.
Yeah. But I'm happy
that complicated for sure.
I'm sure it was a.
But honestly, as far as like 80s chicks goes, that you don't get to see their nipples in the movie, which is in these movies we watch, it's very few and far between. Is there a prominent actress in a movie that you don't see her boobs in the movies we watch? She's gorgeous. Like I didn't remember her being as beautiful as an actress as she was. While being 80s to where she's completely 80s, but not like too over the top. You know, not like every other actress that walked by Eddie Murphy in the movie was just too 80s. She was just the right level of 80s.
As you're talking about like other characters and other, you know, roles in this movie, the lieutenant I think was my favorite.
Ronnie Cox?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved just how serious he played that role of the Beverly Hills chief. You know, where you know, Eddie Murphy gets brought in the first time and they're questioning him and Taggart just gives him 2 gut shots.
Like, who the fuck does that?
Well, I mean, bless you. He's a black man in custody in Los Angeles County.
He's just fucking just.
That's a best case scenario.
Every time Eddie Murphy got punched in this movie, it was only in the midsection. Did you guys catch that?
It was annoying me actually.
Serious.
It was a whole
series. But I love when Ronnie Cox walks out and he goes, "Do you want to press charges?"
Yep.
Serious. Ronnie Cox was 30 years ahead of his time at this, right? Like that was just crazy to kind of see that.
You could defund the police as far as I'm concerned, except that man's precinct.
Yeah,
they're doing God's work right there.
What's a better name, Ronnie Cox or Dick to Go?
Dick to Go.
I've been waiting to talk about this. Dick to Go is the superior name because you're like Dick to Go, Dick to Go, and you want to separate it, but you're like what kind of Cox? Ronnie Cox. And I would, if I had that name, I would run up to strangers. They're like Ronnie Cox, and then I'd Batman the fuck out of them every time.
Smoke bomb and
I go with Dick to Go too because like I could hear that in conversation a lot easier than like Ronnie Cox because we're like, sir, you're Dick, and then like you just run Dick to Go, and then she like puts it in a fucking container in a bag and gives it
like
to you.
It's like a giant paper bag walking around.
As you leave the room.
It's
you know,
still got the little doggy bag tabs on the side.
Yeah.
Stays fresh.
Yeah.
Aluminum lines. Keeps hot like a Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little bit less hate.
Well, how'd you like your dick, sir? To go, please.
We all take our Dick to Go.
We do.
And a little sign of Ronnie Cox.
That's right.
No, I liked him because really any other 80s action fans will recognize him as the bad guy in RoboCop and as the ultimate bad guy in Total Recall as well, which 2 movies we are definitely going to fucking watch at some point on this podcast. So it was interesting to see him be that same authoritative, sharp suit wearing guy, but instead of a slime ball, he's on your side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ronnie Cox. Almost as fun to say as Dick to Go. God damn it, we're going to do some more time. Just like that still is going. Dick to Go. But let's talk about the last thing I think that really makes this movie great, which is the music.
I thought you were going to say Judge Reinhold.
We already talked about Judge Reinhold.
Okay, the fact that his name has been said at least 3 or 4 times tonight is more than has probably been said since like 1997.
Since Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Which was probably 1997.
Yeah, somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah, he was the only one, aside from Eddie Murphy, who was in 2 and 3.
Well, Bronson came back for the third movie.
He did.
To sell guns.
Yep.
And titties. But you do your thing. But yeah, the music though. So the heat is on.
So every song in this movie is so good.
I completely forgot that this song was in the movie.
Yeah.
It's
And-
quintessential 80s.
And as I turned the movie on and like, because I was immediately thinking the first thing you're going to hear is is the music we all know from the movie is the song.
Don't worry, you
is,
hear that for 50 other minutes.
Yeah,
you do.
It's in every literary area of the scene.
But like I thought that's where we were going to lead off, and then no, the heat is on, and I'm like, fuck, listen to that sweet sax.
yeah, saxophone, 80s rock, chase music. I did not remember this was in there and that it was the chase song music. And I went, yeah. That's why that song was everywhere, because it was in Beverly Hills Cop and it was a huge fucking hit. I don't know why I just thought it was some other random 80s movie. Yeah, then we got to all the other music is great in the movie, excellent. But we have to talk about Axel and F minor. That is all time. And they play the shit. I don't know how much they paid to have that song made, but they got their fucking money's worth.
Harold Faltermeyer is the man who made this happen, and he did God's work. Because
I
that
didn't remember it being in there that much.
it is absolutely the theme song on every level.
I
Because
should have the whole time just started humming the song halfway through a review.
how many times as a little kid did you hum that to yourself when you were doing something like you know?
always.
So much.
Oh,
Because
yes.
it was perfect.
Anytime you go to any keyboard or music store, it has a piano. There's a 40% chance that someone's going to play.
Chopsticks or that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. If it's a giant piano, it's always chopsticks. If it's a regular sized piano, it's that or Beverly
If
Hills
it's a
Cop.
synthesizer, the closer
for
to
sure.
synthesizer you get, then it's just Axel and F. Yeah.
There's always a sign above the synthesizer that says no BHC.
No BHC, no stairway.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the stairway's by the guitar.
I know, yeah, but
Yeah.
still. I mean, it's a music store. Music stores typically do terrible business. They would share the space. They would
Yeah.
just print the same sign twice.
Yeah.
I think there could be an argument
retail.
that this could be the greatest soundtrack for a movie ever.
It is not.
I think it could.
is
I said as an argument. Motherfucker.
I would say that as far as a non-pop song, instantly recognizable, like kind of a movie line, it's in the top 10 easily.
Fuck, it's a top 3.
Because I'm thinking, like, you're thinking about like the Star Wars main theme, like Indiana Jones, and then the James Bond, like the as far as stings and parts of the music. I'd give you top 5 because everyone knows. Everyone
you
knows.
hear it and you go, Beverly Hills Cop, right? Yeah.
You can hit and everyone will know. Okay, that's it. One note.
That's actually a really good point. That's actually, think about it. How many songs do you hear like the first note, like the first, and you go?
You think that's what it is?
I think Beverly Hills Cop was in a real short list.
Yeah.
Because not too many big songs that are part of movies and soundtracks sound like that.
sound.
I think that's an interesting
agree.
point.
That's a very
It
short
is.
list
It is.
too.
You know where my mind went instantly when you said that was, so on my cell phone, when Zedge used to just let you download any kind
the
of
Zedge days.
and we could just download any ringtone you wanted and your phone could be just fucking awesome. My sister's ringtone was Soul Glow from Coming to America.
Yep.
So, when you hear the "Don't let your soul glow," and like the sax kind of kicks in there too. I did not hit the note. I know that was terrible.
You tried.
It tried. It just didn't get there.
brother.
Yeah, my balls dropped on that. Sorry, guys. But like that's the kind of thing that I think of as being an instantly recognizable thing. But you're right. I mean, there's very few things that would align themselves to a movie than that song.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Speaks a lot to the song and the impact of the movie in general.
Somehow the movie that song might have more cultural impact than the movie itself. Which is
Yeah,
just
I think that's a good. Yeah,
Well, because too,
Possibly.
the synth is the sound of the 80s.
Yes.
You know,
Undoubtedly. Indubitably.
indubitably.
Auspiciously.
Listen, any
Copernicusly.
movie that has more than one Patti LaBelle fucking song on it is a fucking winner.
That's also true.
All
yeah.
Excellent.
We'll put some respect on Patti LaBelle's name, goddammit,
Oh,
in this
well,
house.
There is no disrespect in this house.
Yeah.
Patti LaBelle reigns supreme.
But,
Only to be toppled off by other musical slight other ones like David Bowie in this house. If David Bowie were alive today, I would write him a letter. And my handwriting is terrible. Every day, just to please come into my house and kiss my wife right on the mouth, just to make her a little cooler, and me by association, just a little bit.
So-
just a little bit.
Why does he just kiss you on the mouth?
I would not dare be as impetuous as to insist that I could ask Bowie to
If you
kiss me on the
don't
mouth.
ask, he's not going to know.
I'm
See.
pretty confident.
That's why you're the man.
I know that I think I've only really actively, willingly listened to less than 5 David Bowie songs in my entire life.
We'll have conversations off the air.
No, we don't have to though.
No, we'll
I
talk.
have no interest in David Bowie.
No, I bet I can. We can talk about it.
I mean, we can, but
We can. We'll talk. That's okay. Because there's like 9 different versions of Bowie. I can find one that fits it.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
You gotta work out like Jericho in like 2008. That whole run, he just stole from David Bowie. He stole from David Bowie in 1997. David Bowie woke up and said, "See, what have I done? I've been a weirdo, a bit of spaceman, been like an 80s pop star who wears a trench coat for some reason. I've been Labyrinth.
I've been a wizard in a maze.
A wizard in a maze with a puppeteer in my crotch. What could I do? Oh yeah, I'll be a fucking heel, a Bond villain.
You know,
and it works.
Fun fact: if he has a puppet on his crotch in Labyrinth, his dick is doing the work.
And that dick is SAG-AFTRA eligible.
It is. It has its
That
card.
dick is not to go.
That dick was to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dick to stay.
And we hope you guys are here to stay as we keep moving along with the show. Guys, final short sum up. Beverly Hills Cop. Is this the best of the movies that we've that have that 80s action?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. Is it too good to be on our 80s action list? Is it like in its own tier?
I mean, it would be at the top, I would assume, for...
I don't like
The
that.
majority
I
of the
kind of want to like slice underneath it and lift it up into like the Hall of Fame and still keep like as far as the best of the bad movies we've reviewed.
Okay.
You know,
fair.
this podcast has got me almost a little depressed on the 80s because, like, I was as we've been watching.
being better.
I remember these movies being so much better, and then we just get to review them, and we just shit all over them, and I'm like, oh my god, was the 80s just a lie to me?
Just
Was
a
this
little
whole
bit.
thing just a lie?
Maybe.
But then, you know, we get to Beverly Hills Cop, and it totally redeems itself.
That's
There it
right.
is.
84 was a good year.
And,
All right.
And we have more Beverly Hills Cops to look forward to.
We do.
Yeah.
do.
They're getting ready to film Beverly Hills Cop 4.
They are.
That's a
It's,
thing.
being released by Netflix.
Ah.
There's talks of a Beverly Hills Cop 5. And then Eddie Murphy is just going to solely focus on stand-up. After that, that's his career aspiration.
I pay a lot of money for that.
They just
Everybody
announced
would.
this week that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is co-starring in Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Oh,
Well,
all right.
you guys do remember
Nice.
they had the Beverly Hills Cop TV show briefly, and they did like their TV movie that he was in.
His son.
Yeah, yeah,
It was focused on his
yeah. It
son.
was focused on his son, and then it was a brief-lived TV show. I think it was only like one season on Fox, and that was it. But yeah, they tried to branch out into the Beverly Hills universe.
They're just going
The
back to
BCU.
Axel.
Yeah.
Yeah, the BCU.
Stick with what works.
Yeah.
What
My-
worked the first.
my-
the second time.
My final thought about the movie was just how much they took the piss out of Detroit.
Good.
You know, like Detroit is not I mean, it's a major city. You know, it's not New York.
No.
It's not Chicago.
No.
It's not Los Angeles.
No.
It's not Denver.
No.
It's not Miami.
No.
It's not Dallas.
No.
It's not Boston.
No.
It's not Philadelphia.
No.
Detroit.
But it's Detroit.
It is.
Wait, it's not Minnesota.
No.
It's not Minneapolis, St. Paul.
It's not the entire state of Minnesota, no.
Yeah, no,
Or
it's-
either of the Twin Cities, no.
Right. Not St. Louis.
Not Houston.
No, not Houston.
No.
Not San Francisco.
No.
But it's Detroit.
It is.
It's not Orlando.
No.
No, it's not. But it's still Detroit.
It is.
And the fact that they're just like, well, I guess you don't have this in Detroit. I mean, maybe you need to go back to Detroit. It's like, you're fucking Beverly Hills. You're basically 6 square miles. Fuck you.
You know, no, I would say my final thoughts is, I remember, this movie is way better than I remember it being, and I didn't remember it being bad. I remembered it being good. And I thought, oh, well, this podcast has fucking taught me that everything I remember being good ends up being shit with some extra nipples. This ended up being
Not
really
today,
good
sir. Not
with
today.
extra nipples.
Yeah.
No, and there's, you know, it's, I tend not to want to, there's not really too much to make fun of in this. I mean, Judge Reinhold's a dork, but he's a dork that knows he's a dork.
He's self-aware.
He is the self-aware dork.
Just Eddie Murphy talking to Judge Reinhold about it's okay to have a boner. It's okay to have a hard on. You're in a strip club.
You okay, Billy?
It's okay, Billy.
It's okay if your dick's hard. I'm not gonna judge. And it's like, it's like, yeah.
You see Taggart. Taggart's definitely hard. He's just not. He's just not displaying it. Like it's just awesome.
Gentlemen, final thoughts on this? Either of you two?
Don't be stupid.
That's great.
All right. Well, speaking of 80s things and other movies, maybe being better or worse, or who knows, we may never have seen them. I'm going to say that next week at the conclusion of next week's show, which we're going to talk about what we're doing here in a second, we have a very special treat. You see, next week we're going back to our first ever throwback episode. That's right, we're revisiting a topic. Not oh my god, we went long, so I statistically have to split it into 2 parts. Two-parter.
Yeah,
No.
that too.
1 year ago, season 1, we talked very drunkenly about the Nintendo 64. And since then, we've grown as people, we've grown as a show, we've added 2 new hosts, and fuck it, let's talk about it again. It's Nintendo 64 Part 2, or as I want to call it, Nintendo 65, next week here on the show. And we got a little special treat coming afterward. You see, these guys, they don't know. They know what's coming, and now we're going to tell you. See, you have to listen to next week's episode because we have a special new gimmick debuting on the show next week. You see, we have a device of epic proportions. A device that is of such epic proportion that I wrote down an acronym for it that I now have to move on and pull a Dave and pull up my notes and babble just long enough to get it. And that device is called the Noah's Mystery Entertainment and Awesome Tourney thing. That's right. It's Noah's Meat. It's a mystery wheel. And everyone's going to get their hands and spin Noah's Meat, which will tell us what our next film episode is going to be. These guys don't know what's on the mystery wheel.
I bet they're all worse than Beverly Hills Cop.
Probably. Almost. As it comes to be, a lot of movies are. A lot of probably very famous movies are. But what is riding on Noah's Meat? We're going to find out. We'll be gentle.
We can't wait to get our hands on it.
That's right. And you, listeners, you're going to have Noah's Meat all over in your ear. It's going to be pleasant.
Did you come up with meat first and then do the acronym, or was the acronym and then the meat came afterwards?
That would be a yes. The meat
It's a
first,
yes.
and then I came up with words to fit it.
That's effort.
Yeah.
So you found something to fit your meat.
I did. Well, it's really sometimes it's about what can you fit meat into, and what can you fit into your meat. And this is 2022. We could dock all kinds of words into other things. It's really about basically taking the vocabulary foreskin and just kind of dragging it over top of what you want it to be, and then it becomes one big thing.
That's way better marketing than Phil Collins' based Nazi joke.
That's
Yes.
true.
Which
Yeah.
we still want you to share with us. I am not kidding.
We are.
They're all also editors on the social media, so they'll probably delete it, but not before I get a chance to see it and screenshot it and read it on air.
That's not cool.
If
man.
it's not,
It's just
we don't. No, listen. I'm saying the jokes must be about the Nazis, not about anything else. But if you can find the room to make a Phil Collins Nazi joke, send me your address and we'll talk about it. Wear a Nothing Good shirt, but you have to buy a t-shirt. Anyway, guys, next week.
next week.
See y'all there.
N65.
For N65.